Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Football Films. On today's episode, I'm going to be breaking down the Jets offense, specifically focusing on Sam Darnold and giving you my thoughts on the fantasy football options in New York. Just like previous episodes, I'm going to be breaking down NFL film from the 2018 season and showing y'all why some of the receiving and or offensive weapons may be more valuable to this team and thus who may be able to help you win your fantasy football league. As you may have noticed with how I've worded the title slide to this episode, I'm particularly high on Sam Darnold, simply as a young quarterback for many reasons. For comparison, I think there's a significant chance that Darnold is as good, if not better, than Baker Mayfield. Now, by no means do I mean to discredit Mayfield in his rookie season, as I believe he has an incredibly bright future in the NFL as well. Rather, I just want to use Baker as a barometer, as the consensus of football analysts speak very highly of him, as they should, but unfortunately, most have forgotten about Darnold, who was selected only 2 spots behind Baker in the 2018 NFL Draft. Darnold certainly isn't as flashy or outspoken as Baker Mayfield. He didn't have as great of a rookie season, and he doesn't have Odell Beckham Jr. on his team. However, looking at his 2018 tape shows he possesses elite NFL quarterback traits that can elevate the Jets offense to heights it hasn't seen in a long time. I've dedicated this episode to showcasing this to some degree and how the fantasy options around Darnold will be affected. And of course, we couldn't talk about the Jets' 2019 season outlook without discussing the coaching change this offseason. After their 2018 campaign, the New York Jets fired their head coach Brett Bowles and hiring Adam Gase in his place. This hiring decision was met with a lot of criticism, and understandably so, but forget about Gase for a second and take a step back. Put yourself in the shoes of the general manager. Brett Bowles is a defensive-minded head coach who you entrusted in 2018 to develop a young quarterback. Something Bowles has an opportunity to do previously, but never with a draft pick with the pedigree and skill as Sam Darnold. After a year of progress, you see significant flashes of Darnold's ability, but had Josh McCown not been present, probably wouldn't have received coaching at all. At least coaching Darnold needed to progress to the next level in the NFL. So your priority this offseason is to find someone whose primary resume piece is quarterback development. And in comes Adam Gase, who has been called the quarterback whisperer for his work with Peyton Manning in Denver, as well as coaching positions with other well-known NFL quarterbacks. Now, Coach Gase is not a well-rounded coach, and I will surrender the fact that he made some questionable coaching decisions during his stint in Miami. So I wouldn't trust him to elevate this offense as a whole. I would, however, trust that he will be able to coach Darnold and develop him into a quarterback he was meant to be, at least to a much greater degree than Bowles ever was capable of. All this to say that I expect that the 2019 version of Sam Darnold is going to look like a much more polished offensive threat. The first play I wanted to show was from the Week 14 matchup against the Bills. It's 3rd and 10 midway through the second half, and the Jets are down by a touchdown. The Bills are lined up in a single high safety look, and based on their alignment, are likely in a cover 3 zone. The play begins with a running back flip motion, and the inside linebackers adjust their assignments. Because this is an obvious passing situation, the adjustment made by the linebacker is a tell that the defense is instead in a man coverage. This would mean that the weak side backer is likely going to blitz. In fact, the Bills are actually running a cover 2 man coverage with a weak side delayed blitz. Fortunately, Darnold has already recognized this pressure and has adjusted the play accordingly. On this play, the Jets are running a modified flood concept out of a 3-man snag. For Darnold's adjustment on this play, he's going to have the line shift right and to roll out to the right himself away from the pressure. Not only does this give him a better angle to deliver the ball to the sideline, but it also delays the linebacker's blitz long enough for his receivers to get open downfield. Now, for the route concept itself, the only true target on this play in man coverage is going to be Quincy Enunwa, who's going to be getting a rub behind Robbie Anderson and get to 10 yards downfield and break to the sideline. The entire goal of this play is to freeze the man responsible for covering Enunwa, who is the near side press corner, by having two receivers run down field routes and force the corner to shadow Enunwa on his inside shoulder. That way, when Enunwa breaks to the sideline in his out route, he will be able to separate and get open right at the first down marker. I will point out for completeness sake that the running back is going to be responsible for sealing the edge on the defensive line on this play. The reason you know Darnold adjusted this play is because on a traditional flood concept, a receiver would run into the flat, which was likely the running back originally. However, because Darnold is going to be rolling right, the running back is going to be utilized to ensure Darnold has enough time to deliver the pass downfield. Darnold locates the defender to ensure he takes Enunwa's inside shoulder. Here, Enunwa breaks to the sideline right before Darnold delivers the ball on the run. This isn't an incredibly difficult play to read, but nuances in its design show Darnold correctly understanding its mechanics and making a difficult sideline throw, also on the run, I will note. This is just one of the tools he possesses, which makes me think that he is primed for a bright NFL future. I'll also mention the role of Enunwa on this play. Yes, the Jets are changing offensive systems this year, but this play highlights the role I believe Jamison Crowder will operate in this year, just based on his skill set and such. This next play is from the Week 16 matchup against the Packers. It's early in the game, 1st and 10, and the Packers are in a cover one man defense. The Jets are running a play-action cross-play with two outside release seams and Chris Herndon running an outside release hook. Sam Darnold identifies the defense, and recognizing that the Packers are in man coverage, that would mean that Kentrell Bryce will be responsible for stopping Chris Herndon. Now, Chris is 6'4", 250 pounds, while Kentrell Bryce is 5'11" and 200. If you get a matchup where your man is nearly half a foot taller and weighs 50 pounds on a guy, I'll take that man-to-man matchup all day, as will Sam Darnold. Even more impressive is Darnold is going to throw what is known as a back shoulder throw to Herndon. The back shoulder throw is a pass that is thrown to the receiver's inside shoulder before they turn to locate the ball and make the catch. It is effective because it places the pass completely out of the reach of the defender and maximizes Herndon's positioning downfield. The difficulty with this play is having a quarterback who can throw accurately enough and good enough timing, as well as a receiver who has equally good timing, footwork, and concentration to make the catch. Both of which suggest that if Darnold and Herndon can complete this play, they are both incredibly in sync and gifted football players. I'll stop play here just to point out that Darnold located Bryce and now knows for sure he has the man-to-man matchup he wants. Here, Herndon pivots with his outside foot, rotating to the pass that is now in the air, locates the ball, and makes the difficult catch. Again, not an incredibly difficult read, but a very difficult throw, and Darnold quickly progresses to the correct receiver matchup on this play. I'll also point out that Herndon was able to make these types of plays during his rookie season as a tight end. It's unfortunate that he was a knucklehead this offseason and was arrested for a DUI, for which he will serve a 4-game suspension. But I am incredibly high on him as a tight end talent, for which I will discuss in more detail at the fantasy football values section. This final play is from the Week 15 matchup with the Texans. It's late in the second half, 2nd and 7, and the Texans are showing a pretty clear cover 2 zone look. The Jets are running a dagger to the left side of the formation and a simple post curl to the right. Because the defense is likely in cover 2, Robbie Anderson, who is running the deep post is the primary read, which Darnold does recognize at the beginning of the play. This is because in a cover 2, the soft spot in the zone is the open field between the two deep safeties. All Darnold has to do is ensure neither inside linebacker drops into that part of the zone, as this would indicate a Tampa 2 zone defense, or that the safeties do not rotate after the snap for the same reason. So as long as they don't, he knows he's going to be able to connect with Anderson on a deep reception. Here, Darnold eyes the closest defender, recognizing he is not dropping into Tampa 2. This is the green light to hit Robbie Anderson on the deep post. For Darnold, plays like this are clockwork. He makes reading NFL defenses look easy and is incredibly efficient at doing so. Even if his first read isn't correct, he's able to quickly progress through the routes and identify the appropriate receiver. I'll also point out that Robbie Anderson is a great fit for the role as an X-receiver. I don't think he's a physically dominating player, but considering the direction of the NFL, he fits the role he played last year extremely well. If Darnold can improve like I'm expecting him to, you can expect his efficiency and usage to increase in 2019. For the fantasy prototype, it's not overly complicated for this team. I expect a traditional spread offense that relies on its X receiver to make chunk plays and take the top off the defense downfield. In addition, you will have role players like the tight end, running back, and slot receivers running underneath routes to help move the chains efficiently. Now, I've been pretty upfront this offseason with my concerns with Le'Veon Bell in 2019, and I'm going to thoroughly explain this to the best of my ability. To be honest, I have backpedaled slightly with concern, but I still think Bell is going to suffer in a new offense. First, you can't rely on the Jets' running game as the efficiency likely won't be there. This is for many reasons, including a lackluster offensive line and Adam Gase likely not as committed to pounding the football as other coaches would be. After all, he was brought in to develop Darnold, so much of Bell's fantasy production has to come through the air. This also presents problems. One, Darnold is capable at targeting receivers downfield, so on a given spread play, the primary options are not likely to be Bell, limiting his actual scheme-related volume. Granted, Bell is a very gifted receiver as well. The second issue is the route combinations that are often run in the NFL. It is recognized amongst the fantasy community that tight end and running back targets cannibalize each other on the stat sheet. But nobody really tells you why that is, they just know that it happens. To explain why this phenomenon occurs in fantasy football, we go once again to the whiteboard. I drew up a typical two safety look and a route combination known as a 7 flat. This is one of the many route concepts in the NFL teams utilize with the running back and tight end. I've discussed this concept previously, but in short, the targeted defender on this play is the cornerback. If the corner drops in coverage like he's trained to do, the flat will be wide open to get a pass to the running back. If the corner steps up into the flat, he will vacate the zone behind him where the tight end will be able to slide into and get open. It's a no-win scenario for the defender and an easy read and pass for the quarterback. Not only this, but you either get a big tight end matchup on a smaller defensive back or your incredibly dynamic running back in open space. As you can imagine, over the course of a game or an entire season, running this play over and over would eventually lead to targets being split amongst the tight end and running back, Chris Herndon and Bell respectively. Sure, you can heavily utilize one, but given the skill sets of all the Jets players, specifically Herndon, it's my belief that an offense is going to be more explosive and difficult to defend if you aren't just feeding Bell the ball, where a defense can simply scheme him out on a given week. This is a lot to say that Le'Veon's passing usage is likely going to be very volatile in 2019, making him a lot less reliable than people are projecting. So for the fantasy values, I am drafting Robbie Anderson as a low-end wide receiver 2. However, I'm fairly confident that he's going to finish the year as a high-end wide receiver 2, if not a wide receiver 1. It just depends on Sam Darnold's progress, which I believe will be significantly improved in 2019. Chris Herndon I have ranked as a low-end tight end 1 after his suspension. I understand the argument to not draft him as he will miss a significant portion of the fantasy season. I would just advise you to pick him up around weeks 4 to 5, as the Jets are on their bye in week 5 as well, so he won't be eligible to play until week 6. But make no mistake, Herndon is an incredibly talented and physically gifted tight end that is going to be heavily utilized in this offense. Jamison Crowder is a receiver I have ranked as a late round flyer type of guy with the potential to develop into one of those heavy volume, low receiver type fantasy assets. He could end up becoming a very valuable flex option in PPR. I'm not as excited in standard leagues. Do remember that he's only 26 and receivers tend to peak by age 29. I think he has a significant opportunity to emerge as a valuable receiving threat in New York should Darnold take the next step at quarterback. So for Le'Veon Bell, again, I backpedaled a little bit on my initial fantasy criticism and currently have him ranked as a mid-tier RB2 to low-end RB1 with volatility. In a 12-team PPR draft, meaning full point per reception league, that would make him a back-end round 2 to early 3rd round pick. So Bell is going a little early for me. Not that I don't think he's a talented running back, because he is. In terms of fantasy, there are too many receivers and backs that have solidified roles that I feel a lot more confident in taking in the top 2 fantasy football rounds. As for Sam Darnold, I think he's going to end up finishing as a low-end QB1. It really is dependent on his progress in his sophomore year. And I don't really think you need to draft him in single QB leagues. It's one of those situations where you can take him with your last pick, or in weeks 1 or 2, if he's doing well, go ahead and pick him off the waiver wire, knowing that he likely has made that big QB jump. And that concludes another episode. Follow me on Twitter at RobFFFilms, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Fantasy Football Films, and go ahead and hit that like button if you liked our content. My name is Robert Athey. Thanks for watching.